Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of the Expendable Show. I don't know why my computer is acting all stupid. It's like the last two episodes. It like has this pause. I'm not sure why, but I'm not a techie guy. But if you like my show, like, subscribe, and ding the bell. So it's Easter. Happy Easter, everyone. Let's not forget what today is about. He has risen. So it's exciting. It's always very symbolic. It just reminds us that we're forgiven and that we can make mistakes and just repent. So it's a big day. Now, it is also a kid day. So when you're running around, you got your kids out, your grandkids are out, they're collecting Easter eggs and whatnot, and they're hanging out with the Easter bunny. Now, I have to remind you that you don't want to end up like this. So here we have our lovely co-host Shauna dressed up like an Easter bunny. I'm guessing this was at church today. But she made the mistake by sending me this picture. And I didn't tell her I was going to use it. So I'm waiting on my phone or for her to jump into the comment section and go, hey, I'll put that picture up. But here is the lovely, always funny Shauna in her Easter bunny costume. I thought it was funny. I told her, I said, you could probably make 10 grand a day on OF. I'm just saying. But she didn't think that was very funny. But there's Shauna in her Easter bunny outfit. She must not be watching the show today. With it being Easter, she's probably doing stuff with her kids. But there she is. She's going to be so mad. So there, she's gonna yell at me here any minute. I can just tell. But let's get into the stuff for this week. So let's go back down to the Doge tracker. So we're still down to 155 billion, which is $962.73 per taxpayer. Notice I say per taxpayer because if you don't pay taxes, you're not getting it. And then on the debt clock, Doge is at 339 billion, which is $3,017 per taxpayer. So we're getting up there. I mean, that's a third of $1 trillion. That's a lot of money. I could use a third of that third of $1 trillion. I'd be all right for a long time. Probably all my grandkids would be all right too. I'm starting to think that the Democrats refuse to they refuse to poll their people to see what their approval rating is because it's stuck at 21%. And of course, the Democrats they refuse to admit it's 21%. They keep saying it's 27%. But either way, that's a really, really bad number, and you're not doing a very good job. But we're going to talk a little bit more in depth about their strategy today. So here we go. Trump's approval rating, he's dropped down about 0.4%. He's at 46.5%. And like always, I use Real Clear Politics because it takes the average of all the polls, which gives you a little bit more of an accurate idea as opposed to using a singular poll. So I haven't been covering the Canadian Prime Minister race, but they had a debate. Carney and Pierre Poilievre, they had a debate the other day, and so Carney is the liberal candidate, and Pierre is the conservative candidate. So Carney was really starting to pull away. He was up by like 7 or 8 points, and he's closed the gap. Pierre's closed the gap. So I think Carney got kind of exposed in the debate. I watched a little bit of it. And there were some things that popped up that Pierre kind of hammered on Carney with, and Carney kind of looked like he didn't know how to answer. He was deflecting really bad. And I think the voters saw that. So Carney's at 43.6% and Pierre's at 38. So we're in the 5% range. We're getting closer to the margin of error, which is generally about plus minus 3%. So we're getting in the ballpark. That could turn into a really tight race. So I'm gonna start keeping an eye on it again and see what the weekly numbers on that look like. So the Dow Jones were down at 39,142. Now, I believe that in the very near future, when China makes a deal with the United States, that Dow is going to skyrocket. So if you are one of those people that likes to play the stock market, I think I would probably buy as many shares as you can in some of the safe bets. And once China jumps back on board and the tariffs, get diminished, you're going to see your investment go crazy. That's just my opinion. I am no financial expert by degree, but I do a lot. I'm in the business world on a regular basis, so I do see things. So egg prices. So it's really, really odd that. So I use a website when I look at the egg prices called eggprices.org. The site has been down. Well, I mean, I checked it today. It hasn't been up all day today. So I don't know what's up with that. But usually that's the market watch of eggs. They also put other agricultural products like beef and pork and stuff like that we produce, so you can see what the market prices are. And it's not on there, so I had to use a different site, and they're saying that the average price of eggs is at $3 a dozen, which is $1.15 lower than Joe Biden. So either way, that price is probably the $3 a dozen is going to be close to what eggprices.org is going to say, most likely. Hopefully they get it up and running before Wednesday's show, so I can know exactly where egg prices are at. I mean, I could have looked on the Dow Jones. I just didn't want to. Gas. So gas is going down, and we're starting to see a positive trend for consumers. So Joe Biden, it was at $3.30 a gallon. We're at $3.15 average right now, so we're 15 cents. Here in my little town in Georgia, Locust Grove, the gas prices this morning when I went past the gas stations on the way to the gym were at $2.51 a gallon. $2.51 a gallon in Locust Grove, Georgia, which is the lowest I've seen in the whole state. So mortgage rates have gone up. So we're at 6.97% on average, according to Zillow, and 2022 was 6.7. So we're up. Now that's something that's being debated in real time. So Jerome Powell and Trump are in a public dispute over the mortgage rates. Trump believes that the mortgage rates should go down. Jerome Powell is not lowering the mortgage rates. In my opinion, Jerome Powell is partly responsible for the housing crisis because he doesn't play the market enough. He basically Trump calls him a day too late, Jerome Powell, which I agree with that. Jerome Powell is a late reactor to the markets, and I don't like that. He's not aggressive enough. He's not aggressive enough when it comes to the stock markets. He's a guy that needs to really get with the program here. I just don't understand his. I don't understand what he's trying to do ever. It makes no sense. Sorry about that, folks. So we are at, basically Jerome Powell's got to get it together. I don't like the guy. Trump, I think it would be a mistake for Trump to fire him. His term ends in a year. But at the same time, he's not doing a damn thing that benefits Americans. I don't know whose agenda he's on. I'm not even sure he's on the liberal agenda because he is a disaster, even in the Biden administration. And maybe Biden would have polled a little bit better if Jerome Powell would have helped him out a little bit, but we didn't. But we didn't see that. So that's Jerome Powell. I can't stand the guy. I think he's a tool. And then let's go into the. That's what I get for bringing drinks to my podcast, and I spilled them everywhere. My big ass microphone gets in the way, and I'll see where things are at. I made my cats go crazy. So next, there's this trend going on, and I don't know if a lot of people are hip to it, but the Democratic National Committee, the DNC vice chair, is a young guy named David Hogg. So those of you who do not know who David Hogg is, I will fill you in real quick. He is a young man who got famous because of let me look at the so he was at the Stoneman Douglas High School shooting there in South Florida, and he got on there. He got famous because he was on TV all over the place, and he was going how tragic it was, and how traumatized he is, and how he saw this and saw that. And then later on, it come to find out that he wasn't even at school that day. So this guy basically built his fame off of a giant lie. And ever since then, he's been an anti-gun activist, blah, blah, blah. I can't stand him. I've been paying attention to what he talks about on X for probably 3 or 4 years now. And he does nothing but spew propaganda and lies. So when the DNC put him in there, I was actually, I'm happy. I'm happy this kid is there because he's a train wreck, and he's gonna be a train wreck. So he announced on Wednesday that the DNC is going to spend $20 million to help elect younger Democrats. I can't wait. Go primary all these old heads with all your young socialists. This is going to be a massive disaster. Now, we'll talk about why. He says that a lot of the older Democrats are just in there and they're asleep at the wheel, is what he says. I'm glad he thinks that. That makes me really happy. So some of the reactions are mixed, but obviously none of these Democrats want to go on the record to claim their statements. But so one of them was one of the voting members who asked to remain anonymous to speak more freely said that behind the scenes, people are expressing their strong opinions towards each other. There's certainly not a consensus. So you have a battle. That's basically saying there's a civil war going on in the Democrat Party. So then the actual DNC chair, who was ranked ahead of David Hogg, he had to reel it in and say, whoa, 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 whoa. He praised Hogg's statement, but also spotlighted the DNC's longstanding position of staying neutral in primaries. So he's basically saying, whoa, David, we're not allowed to announce that we're going to go to war against the politicians that we don't like or that we feel aren't doing their job. You can't do that. So there's that. That's going to be a problem. He said David Hogg's a passionate advocate, and we are grateful for his service to the Democrat Party, whether it is his role as DNC vice chair or in outside capacity. In order to ensure we are as effective as possible at electing Democrats to office, it is the DNC's longstanding position that primary voters, not the national party, determine their Democratic candidates for general election. So that's where he's reeling him in, and he's saying David should have said that. It's not our job to pick and choose what candidates are going to run. That's what the voters are for. We just present the candidates, and then the voters vote. Then Martin went on to say that Hogg is also now an elected DNC vice chair, which means that he should not be getting into primaries. There is a reason that the DNC maintains neutrality, because we are the arbiters and the referees at the end of the day. You can't be a referee and also pick a side, because then you lose credibility. Yay, David Hogg, you're not credible anymore according to your own party. I did see a quote by Ro Khanna. So I pick on Ro Khanna a lot because he, with the Suchir Balaji case, and Ro Khanna is like completely dodged dealing with that because he's a worthless politician. And I feel bad for the parents of Suchir Balaji because they've been reaching out for help from him. And he gets on Twitter and he says, "Oh, I'm going to do everything in my power." But that's as far as it goes. He makes a tweet and then we don't hear from him. So he's just as worthless as any other politician. But he wants to get out and talk about these things. He was interviewed Tuesday ahead of Hogg's announcement, and he said, "We need Democrats speaking out, not just on the economy. We need them speaking out on civil liberties, on the rights of immigrants, and the rights of universities." So there we go, Ro Khanna. They're doing exactly what lost them the election, and they're going to call it a new strategy. No, it's the old strategy. It's just David Hogg's running it now. So this is where the Democrats are at. They haven't learned their lesson. They don't even see. I think that you have these progressive Democrats that are in denial that their policies are the ones that destroyed Kamala Harris's campaign, and the old heads who are going, "Hey, we should have done this a little bit more strategic and not made it look so obvious." They're telling these younger Democrats, like, you guys need to just chill. But what is going to happen is these older Democrats are all going to retire. They're going to start getting voted out by their own party, because we know the Democrats eat their own. And they're going to heavily, when they have full power of the Democrat Party, they're going to push this heavy socialist agenda, which is what caused them to lose the election. And I know I say there's a lot of causes of what caused them to lose the election, but this is the primary one. Their views are too radical for the average American, and they don't express any love or patriotism towards this country. There's no loyalty to the flag. There's no loyalty to the oaths of this country. And that's a problem for a lot of Americans, because if we're going to live here, we need people who are going to be loyal to the country, not loyal to everybody else's country. And that's where we run into problems. So moving on. Also this week, so we have this brewing situation with Iran going on, and President Trump is trying to change direction a little bit. So President Trump signaled that a nuclear deal with Iran could emerge in the near future. And this is after, Trump was putting massive pressure on Iran to just give up. So now he's backing off a little bit, and he's going, let's sit down and let's work something out. He said that the U.S. is down to its final moments of negotiation with Iran, and hoped military intervention would prove unnecessary. So he's trying to avoid a situation with Iran. Now, if you're Iran, you could look at this as a sign of weakness, because it looks like the United States is backing off a little bit. But I think President Trump is really trying to avoid starting any new conflicts while he's president, because he knows that that's a big deal when it comes to voters. Plus, we just got out of that 21-year conflict in Afghanistan, which at the end of the day, it didn't benefit any Americans at all. So he's trying to avoid that situation. We really don't need to be in the Middle East, like causing problems with people, or being a problem, or trying to stop problems. Yes, Iran needs to just wisen up and use a clear head instead of trying to threaten everybody all the time or pay people to do their dirty work for them. So that's where I'm hoping we go with that. It's so Trump goes on. He says it's an interesting time in the history of the world. But we have a situation with Iran that something is going to happen very, very soon, and you'll be talking about that pretty soon. He said, hopefully we can have a peace deal. I'm not speaking out of strength or weakness. That's where Trump's coming to say, look, I'm not being weak. I'm just trying to be smart. And he said he'd rather see a peace deal than the other, but other will solve the problem for sure. So he's basically saying, like, hey, you guys need a peace deal or we're going to go to a whole other different level. So we'll see if Iran tries to call President Trump's bluff or not. Hopefully not. Trump went on to say that the time is happening now. The time is coming up. Something's going to happen one way or the other. I hope that Iran, and I've written them a letter. He wrote Ayatollah a letter saying, I hope you're going to negotiate, because if we have to go in militarily, it's going to be a terrible thing for them. Trump went on to say they're a very strong country right now. We're not going to let them get a nuclear weapon. They're trying to, for sure. The problem that persists is the presence of China. So here's I'm going to say this, and I'm probably going to get some flack for it, but I don't care. China is a problem because the Chinese government and the Chinese military are, I'm going to say it, it's a country full of cowards. There's a reason why China hasn't been in a major war in 5,000 years. It's because they're full of cowards. China won't go head to head with anybody. I'm not worried about getting into a war with China. But what I worry about is China gaslighting other countries. And that's what China does. They don't directly come at the United States because they know that we'll whoop their ass. So what they do is they go take all their money and they go shove it over into Iran. They go shove it over into Russia. They go shove it everywhere they can put it and say, here's more resources. And that's what's emboldened Iran, because Iran thinks China's got our back. And this is a problem, and this is why Trump is reacting the way that he's doing to them. I agree. I've seen a lot of political pundits on TV in the last 2 days saying, you know what, let China eat it. Keep these tariffs on them until they quit or until they go bankrupt. China needs to be put back in their place. And I think Trump's right by doing it. Yes, it sucks because our Dow, our markets are taking a hit. But in the end of the day, when China's markets are no longer relevant and we can pass on the business to countries like Vietnam, Indonesia, India, I would rather do business with them than China. China uses and abuses us. And we've already got tariff deals worked out with everybody else that could replace China in the manufacturing sector. If you watch, I can't remember his name, but there's a young man who sneaks videos out of China all the time. And he goes over, he's like, look, you will not believe the amount of manufacturing that's shutting down here. You're seeing empty factories everywhere. And so these tariffs are hurting the Chinese economy. And we need to finish them off. Finish them off. Don't give them a lifeline. I want President Trump to end their finances, end their currency, end their military push, and he can do it by choking their economy. It's the same thing President Trump did to Iran when Trump was president in his first term. He sanctioned them and sanctioned them and sanctioned them. Wouldn't let anybody do business with Iran. It choked their economy and they almost went bankrupt. And then when Joe Biden came back in, he put that nuclear deal back on the table and it released billions of dollars back to Iran, which gave them more money. So Biden is really who's responsible for Iran's problems now, because he emboldened them, he enabled them, gave them everything they needed to start a war with Israel. So Trump is trying to end that, and rightfully so. So I want to see China go down. I think it's time. There shouldn't be somebody competing with us. I mean, they should compete because that's what markets do. But China plays dirty, and I don't like that. They use slave labor in making their materials. I don't like that either. I'd rather see Americans get that business, and other countries that are America friendly and will work with us on goods and free trade. So, but the way I look at it is China's kind of like George Soros, which it reminds me of something that happened or just today. But China won't face the conflict head on. They have to go through other means, like in a backdoor kind of way. Soros does the same thing. He's not going to go stand out front and go, look at this, I'm doing this. He's going to slip some money over here and he's going to slip some money over there to all these NGOs, and he's going to let them do their thing. Here's some prosecutor money, and they can do the dirty work for him. And then when people like Letitia James, who's about to get indicted, he's not going to be able to save her. He set her up, and Letitia James took that money. She made a deal with the devil, and now she's going to go to prison. So that just tells you. But anyway, I thought it was funny. Elon Musk was wished Happy Easter by Alex Soros today, and Elon's response was, okay, thanks. Like, he was confused. So yeah, but I got, screw Alex Soros. That dude's a freaking bum. He thinks he's something special. You ain't nothing special. Neither is your dad. You guys are a bunch of Hungarian bums. Can't even go back to your own country because you're bums. Russia news. So I don't know what's going on over there. I mean, I do, but I don't understand. I do understand. I'm gonna not be so dramatic. I do understand what's going on over there, and I want to tell you. Russia has been pounding the shit out of the Ukraine. They are bombing them on a regular basis. Like, it's bad. Ukraine isn't really getting any victories anymore over there. This is the big disaster. It's worse now than what it has been. Ukraine's getting pummeled. They just bombed Kharkiv, and they bombed several other sites. But then Secretary of State Marco Rubio, he made a statement. He said, if Ukraine and Russia don't have a serious conversation about peace, we're out. And then, so that's going to be a deciding factor. As soon as, and President Trump backs this up, he says, yeah, I agree with the Secretary Rubio. We're out. We're out. If they can't get it together, we're out. And what this is going to do is it's going to make Ukraine surrender. Because without any backing from the United States, and we just ignore the conflict, he's going to panic and he's going to cut his losses. And you're going to see the eastern part of the Ukraine go to Russia. Russia's going to keep the Crimean Peninsula, and their map's going to get redrawn. And Russia's going to take the eastern part of the Ukraine, and they're going to go home. So that's what's going to happen. I predict that's what's going to happen. At one point, I thought, well, maybe that there wouldn't be such great negotiations to where Trump would just let them take the eastern part of the Ukraine. But now I fully believe that Russia's going to end up with like the Donbas and the Donbas region. That whole eastern border of Ukraine is going to end up turning into Russia. I mean, those are Russian people over there anyway. It's Russian blood. That's they want to be with Russia. Because their own government likes to bomb them when they don't agree with them. So that's going to happen. So they got Letitia James on the news right now crying about being in trouble. She's crying. So I've been watching. So the Cincinnati Reds today, man, they put up like 24 runs on the Baltimore Orioles today. What the hell? They was just hit. Everybody was hitting. The whole lineup was hitting. There's only 3 home runs though, but everybody was hitting. That was crazy. Baltimore Orioles booed their own people. Baltimore's been a playoff team, so that's kind of shocking. Maybe the Reds they were just on today. But yeah, it's baseball season. We got the NFL draft next week. Also next weekend, I will be in Covington, Georgia at Congressman Mike Collins' event. Hopefully we'll have a press pass by then. I'm working on it. it shouldn't be that hard to get. But I will be hopefully be press passing that, and I'll be posting content on the event. It's a surf and turf. So we'll see what Mr. Collins has to say. He's on the infrastructure committee, and like he's mainly deals with all the techie stuff for the infrastructure committee, which is stuff that I have a lot of questions for him for. So I'm going to be paying close attention to Mike Collins next week. For those of you up north, it's about 85 degrees today in Georgia. I've been outside all weekend. Had to clean my pool out. I'm not burnt, I don't think. It's weird. I didn't get burnt, but it's about to be a beach time for me. I might go down to Tybee. I was going to go to Tybee Island this weekend, but they got Orange Crush going on down there, and that's always turns into a shootout. So I didn't go to Tybee Island this week. For those of you who don't know what Tybee Island is, it's like the big party island of Georgia. It's a lot of fun. I go there and try to at least a couple times every summer. But I'm probably going to go next weekend, maybe. Just sit out there by myself and enjoy the peace and quiet. Probably won't be peace and quiet, though. There'll be people out there doing stuff. Or maybe I'll go to Florida. I have to decide. But hopefully we can get Shauna back on the show and we can talk about some more things. Everybody have a happy Easter, and it's a little short this week, but it's been a holiday. I didn't really watch the news all weekend, other than a few random times. I wanted to just enjoy the holiday weekend, and I had a very nice dinner date yesterday with my daughter and her fiance and my granddaughter, and so I've been out and about doing stuff along with cleaning my pool and getting my pool ready to be open. I got in it yesterday, but it wasn't all the way full. So everybody be safe out there. Know your surroundings. With all these stupid protests going on, it's only going to take one time to make something simple turn into something very stupid. So just watch yourselves. If you're in these like protest areas where they're always protesting, you get a bunch of weak people right in one spot, eventually somebody's going to do something dumb because they got strength in numbers because they can't stand on their own 2 feet. But that's all I got for the day. Have a good weekend. I'm out. Peace.